Hi guys, welcome back to Rising Stars, new episodes. My name is Roksana, and on Rising Stars we talk about the actors of Montreal, and also we will be bringing the acting coaches and the casting directors so that you get a bit more of the understanding of the industry as well. And a little note, I would like to thank our sponsor Uber Eats, and check out their website. And today I have, I met this person on one of my acting classes, so I did see him in action as well. Nice to introduce to you Boris Kirimidtchiev. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start from the very beginning, right? Where, how was it your dream when you were a kid? How did the journey begin?
Yeah, the question, it wasn't like I was a kid and I knew what I wanted to do. You know, there's a lot of people,
Yeah, it's very cliche.
They're like, oh, since I was a kid, I knew I wanted to be this. Me, it wasn't like that. I was doing regular stuff. I was at CEGEP here at Dawson in pure and applied sciences, normal things. And you're approaching that age where you're 18, 19, where like people choose what they want to do. I'm going to be engineer. I'm going to be this and that. I was seeing it as like you're picking a box to go in, and it kind of freaked me out. I was like, I'm 19. I don't know what I want to do. And at that time, I was a bit socially reserved. Like with my friends, I was very social, but I was still socially reserved. And I was like, I feel like I need to explore that instead of like...
Get yourself out of the shell?
Exactly. Instead of like being, oh, I'm going to be this X, Y, Z and choose and never address that. And so I went to an acting class. Shout out to Chipka. He's one of the first.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
you know?
No, but I don't know him in person. But I know that a lot of people went to his
and I think he's still doing it. I haven't seen him in the.
I think he does. Yeah.
I think he moved, but he was on right here on Stanley Street, near Peel Metro, ASM Studios, acting studio in Montreal, and I did an acting class there just to get out of my comfort zone, and I liked it. Obviously, I've always been kind of a jokester, making people laugh, my parents laugh, my friends laugh. I've been that guy, but not... I was also in my shell at the same time, so I really liked it. And it was a very simple question. I thought, like, if I can make this for a living, that'd be cool. Either I do it now, or I don't do it, and when I'm 45, I'm like, oh, what if I tried? And so it was a simple decision.
Exactly,
I was like, okay, I'm doing it. I auditioned for the Dawson Theater program. I got in, and from there on, I'm here. Yeah.
Okay, and so, by the way, question. So, Dawson College, right? Did you, before you applied for the program, you did look, I guess, around, right? Like, why did you choose Dawson? Is it a good program? Like, just overall, your view on this one.
Yeah, that's going to be a great commercial for Dawson. But yeah, I compared. So I took Dawson, John Abbott, Concordia. There's also National Theater School, which is also, I don't think I looked at them that much. I don't know why. I think maybe because it was private, or I don't know why I didn't look at them, but I compared. I looked at all the classes. The classes were a bit similar everywhere. Dawson, John Abbott were a bit richer than Concordia. At the time, that was 2017. So they were a bit richer. And then I looked at number of plays. And Dawson just made, as a student, you would have more plays. I think John Abbott, they do 3, 4.
Okay.
I think maybe 3. Dawson, you have 5 plays. In second year, you do 2. In third year, you do 3. So that's how I made my decision. I was like, okay, I'm going to get more practical experience here. I'm going here. I auditioned for both, but I picked Dawson.
And it was, the program, it was focused more on the theater, a bit less on the film, right? It's the reason why I'm asking is that maybe for those people who are thinking, should I go, shouldn't go, what is the benefit for them as an actor out of those programs then? Yeah,
you're going to get theater-focused training because you're going to do stuff like voice class, for example, how to project the voice. Do you do that in film? Not really. You're going to do stuff like how to open yourself up to just generic theater training that, when you're on film, you might not need it. But I would say that the basis of acting is in theater. So it's not a bad thing. It's not a waste of time if you want to just do film. But it is theater focused. And you're going to learn to perform for an audience. So when you go into film, you're going to have to adjust. So to answer your question, it's theater focused, but I wouldn't necessarily not recommend it at all if you just want to do film.
Okay.
But if you're set on just film and you're sure about it, Yeah, you can skip it, I would say.
Okay. And then, so you took what were the other training classes? Because I met you in Susanna's class, right? Yeah. Any other classes that you took? And then how did it all build up into your experience as an actor?
Yeah. So there's Susanna Lanier. I took a class with her. The main thing after graduating, I didn't take that many classes. I took specific classes for specific training, like video game stuff like that. But I would say that I needed a more individualized approach. That's why I did private coaching with Laurent Pitre. I worked with him for a good while, so that kind of helped me. I would say that individualized coaching with someone who has experience and who can kind of identify you're not so much focusing on like scene study and how to do a scene well, but you're focusing on really what your weaknesses are and how to kind of address those.
That's why I wanted to ask, like, what is then the difference between the workshops and the individual coaching, since you did a lot of individual coaching?
Yeah, individual coaching, it's tricky because the person needs to understand you. Like, let's say I'm coaching someone or someone's coaching me but doesn't get me, might not be beneficial. But the one-on-one coaching, you really get that individualized approach, obviously, and someone can say like, can identify some patterns, for example, and say, you do X, Y, Z very often, that's kind of a pattern for you, and you can kind of become aware of it and tweak it. Whereas group coaching, group classes, first, there's a lot of waiting. You learn by watching, that's for sure, but there is a lot of waiting, and sometimes you might not, let's say the class is 3 hours, 2 hours and a half, let's say you're spent watching other people. You learn by watching, but it is also kind of, you're not doing much in that time. And then your time is, the focus is, yes, your growth as an actor, but the focus is how to do that scene well. And you might learn a bit of things here and there while doing this scene, but you're not necessarily going to you're not necessarily going to become aware of your weaknesses.
Okay.
That's my experience. Yeah.
Okay, I get it. And so then from graduating from Dawson, so you did do a lot of theater. Eventually, the program itself, it was a lot of theater focused, and then after that you also did. So we just quickly chat before we started the interview. So 9 plays in total.
Yeah.
That's a good number, like for a young actor like yourself. Any tips and tricks to how to memorize the text? It's a huge chunk of text. You don't have multiple takes, many days. It's like you need to get it all in your head.
Yeah. So for theater, you have a bit more time. You rehearse for like 4 weeks. But so I'm pretty fortunate. I've been blessed with like a freak memory. So that does help. I remember stuff very easily. So that helps me. But I mean, tips and tricks. One thing that I do that was given to me by, I think it was by Laurent Pitre. I think that's where I learned it from, is to write all your text throughout the whole play as a monologue. As you just write it, everything. If it's like, it ends up being 2 pages, you just write 2 pages of text and you reread it mechanically.
But it doesn't, because when you have the lines of the other partner, it's like your cues, right? Like it doesn't mess up the brain?
It can mess it up in early rehearsal, but that's fine. And you can kind of, you see, like the mistakes are going to show you where you're disconnected. But if you learn it mechanically, you don't fall into a pattern of performing the line. Because if you write all your text in a monologue and you read it mechanically without performing, just like as if you're reading a text, you don't fall into a pattern of, I'm going to do the line this way. And then sometimes what I would do in theater school, which was a bit of a mistake on my end, I would start rehearsing and I would be kind of performing. Like if I'm in my room and I'm rehearsing, and then in rehearsal, instead of being present, I would kind of try to replicate what I rehearsed. And I fall into a pattern early in the rehearsal process, which it's not that helpful creatively.
So when you were, let's say, learning the text at home, you were just learning it like a text. You were not putting the character in and leaving all that juicy part for the rehearsals in the theater.
Exactly. So initially I wasn't doing that, but I started doing that after graduating. But yeah.
Interesting. Another question. I did I did a couple of plays back in the days in the university, which was like a long time ago. And I remember I had a part in the play when I needed to kiss my partner, and then we're kissing, and then I hear in the audience, oh, or like some like the reaction. And like, so when you are on stage, like, how much you listen, how much you watch the audience, like, because you still, that I find a difference also between theater and the film. It's you and the camera, and maybe the filming crew, right? Here you feel the vibe of the audience. Like, do you try to listen to it, or you try to disconnect completely, not to be thrown off by the audience?
So I've never tried. It's a good question. This is one of the things that I like about theater, actually, is that connection with the audience. I've never thought about like, oh, I'm going to try to disconnect and consciously do it. I've never done that. I think, but I'm not going to pay attention to it either. But I really like this type of, it's a nonverbal communication, just like feeling, energy exchange with the audience. And for example, okay, the basic example is, if there's just, not necessarily funny, but if there's an intense moment, the reaction of the audience might not be vocal, but you feel that they've received something. So that connection is there, and I find you can't really disconnect from it.
But it doesn't throw you off? No,
not at all. Like how would it throw you off? What do you mean by that?
I don't know, you get, but maybe it was...
Like distracted?
Yeah, distracted.
No. Like even if it's comedy and everyone's laughing and someone's like dying of laughter in the front row and I hear them, it's not gonna throw me off. It's gonna add, I find, to
That's a good
to the
like,
play.
You feel like I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah, I feel like the performance is being received by someone, and it feeds on to then what me and my scene partners are doing on stage, I find.
Question: did you have? Eventually you did 9 plays, so you did have multiple opportunities to interact with different cast, right? Were you always lucky and you had great cast members, or there were the cases when the energy and the team spirit was not that good? And how did you address and how did you manage those situations?
So I've been pretty fortunate, I would say, to have there's never been a terrible situation, like someone not getting along with someone. There's never been that, but I think this is key. In theater, it's like, because I've played sports before, and theater has felt more of a group, way more of a, like the group cohesion is even more important. Maybe not more important, but as important as sports. I've really felt that. And I've been fortunate to have always good cohesion. I remember one play that I did where it's not that there was no chemistry, but no one really liked the play. And we were like 12 people, and we were kind of like...
Was it in Dawson? Or
I will not say. But essentially, like, there was some people were trying to be optimistic. I was one of them. I was like, no, I think the play can... This is good about the play. But a lot of people were just like, I can curse here, or I can say fuck her.
I know.
I mean, I've said it. But anyway, a lot of people were like, oh, fuck this. I don't want to do this play. And so there was kind of this... It's not a good energy to come with.
Yeah.
And so the play, I think we had fun with it, but that was kind of it was a bit of a draining process, because it's not like, it's like you're going in a room of rehearsal and everyone's like, yeah,
and
we're here to do this. Exactly. So there was a bit of like, you're in the rehearsal room and you know that like 80% of the people are like, what are we doing? So yeah, I would say is my worst experience, which wasn't that bad.
Okay, but you also did then, after that you did film as well, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember what was your first like big role that you booked? What was it?
Yeah, it was the movie I was telling you about earlier.
Yeah.
That literally, it was shot in 2021. There was issues with the project. It came out like a month ago. It's called The Draft.
The Draft.
So it was for me, it's a small role, but for me it was big because I had just graduated. There was the pandemic. It was 2021, still peak pandemic. So 2020 to 2021, there was almost nothing.
Yeah.
I didn't have an agent at that time, so I was on casting workbook. I look at things, there was nothing. Then 2021, I see a breakdown, feature film, XYZ, role. I apply, I audition on Zoom. That was like when Zoom auditions it was like a new thing. And I had a callback in person here, it was somewhere here in downtown. And I booked it. Small role, it's like a supporting, I'm like the friend of the main character, the best friend, but I'm the best friend, but I'm here in like only a couple scenes. And so that for me was like my big experience on like, my first experience on like a big set. The set was, I don't even know how many people, but it was almost close to 100. First professional film working experience.
Were you nervous? I remember when I did my first scene in the first, like when I had a speaking role, I could feel my knees were like shaking or going like that. Yeah, like it was not visible because I had my pants or whatever, but I could feel like they were trembling. How was your first moment on set?
I was definitely nervous. I don't really recall like super high nerves, but I was definitely nervous. But I remember the director was the director intimidating in this production that you're referring to?
No, I wouldn't say that he was. Okay. No, he was okay. But just for me, it was the first experience.
Okay.
And like I couldn't understand if I was doing the right or the wrong thing. And we did a couple of times the takes, and that was the first scene, and we did I think like 10 takes, and like, oh shit, like I'm not doing something right. Like so that was the main thing for me.
Oh, I've had an experience like that in video game, but for my first film experience, I don't think I was that nervous. I think the rule was I didn't have that many lines per se. It's like it was like a group scene in a bar, and at some point I would yell cheers or something like that. It wasn't like I wasn't nervous about like not doing well or anything like that. And the director, that's why I asked about the director, because I thought maybe that's why you were nervous. But the director in my film set was very approachable, and in the audition process he felt very personable. So I wasn't thrown off by that, and I find, I wasn't as nervous, to be honest,
So it was like a very good connection from the...
Everyone on set was friendly, and like they made me feel at home. Because I remember being nervous, I think, going to it, but everyone there was very friendly and warm and supportive, so I think it was...
Oh, lucky you. Yeah. I mean, like I know that people had different experiences. It all depends so much on, I guess, the director and
depends who you're with, depends on a lot of things.
Another question. So do you get, I know that like the typecasting, it exists, right? Do you get typecasted? What is your typecast? Have you, like let's say when you audition or let's say plays as an example, do you have any specific typecast?
So first answer would be, I would say no, because I would say no in the sense that like I haven't been in the industry this long for like the industry to have identity, and I'm not even that, like I haven't booked that many roles for the industry to say like, oh, we see you as this. But in my experience in like theater roles and stuff that I've gotten, I see a pattern of things that I book. So there's the trusted friend, that type of character, like a friend, the friend of the protagonist, or just a character that inspires trust. People tend to see me as that. That I get very, very often. Like in Shakespeare, we did Hamlet. I was Horatio, the best friend of Hamlet, his right-hand man, always by his side. In the movie that I talked about, The Draft, I'm the guy's friend, always by his side. So that type of character I find. Then, I mean, just comedic goofballs, just like, I don't know how to, like just knuckleheads. Like, this is the class clown type of guy I tend to get seen as. And that's who I kind of, like if you give me a comedic part, that's how I'm naturally gonna lean. I'm gonna lean into it because I enjoy doing it. I would say these two is what I've noticed.
How much are they aligned to, let's say, the roles that you would want to have? I don't know, maybe you want to have get a role of a psychic or a villain.
Yeah. So the comedy side, like the class clown, I love it. So that I'm glad that people see me as that. I think villains I would like to play, and I don't think that they're necessarily, because I was also sometimes cast as like I played a Russian mobster in a TV series not too long ago. So I think sometimes I get the villain, but I would like to get more the villains. Yeah. Maybe angry headshots or something like that.
Maybe the angry headshots.
I should do that.
Yeah.
But villains I guess I would want to lean more into.
And then if you were to choose, what would be the, let's say, which director you would want to work? What would be your dream director to work with, dream cast, and dream role?
Okay. So I'm kind of weird. I don't know necessarily names of directors and stuff like that. So I think, I don't know, but Wes Anderson is good. I've liked a lot of his movies, but I don't know too much of his work. I'll go back to the director after. We'll say,
Okay,
so
yeah.
Dream cast, you said?
Yeah, Dreamcast.
One actor?
2.
It's Tom Hardy, Steve Carell.
Why?
They're my 2 favorite actors. Steve Carell is, I mean, when we talk about class clown type of characters, he's like, for me, he's the best. I mean, you have The Office, you have his work with Anchorman, and he has range. A lot of people haven't seen him, but there's other movies that he was in where it's a more grounded, serious role. Like in The Big Short, he has that type of role. Steve Carell, Tom Hardy is phenomenal.
How can you know? Like I watched, my husband once showed me, he was watching something with Tom Hardy. You can barely understand him.
Because it's maybe because sometimes he does like a Cockney accent. Is it?
Yeah, he does have this Cockney accent, and like you can barely understand. And maybe because I'm fighting with my accent, and I'm like, so my accent is much more understandable than his.
But that's because that's why I like him, because it's not his actual accent. His actual accent is more like London, like standard London accent.
He does that on purpose?
Yeah, he does. He's done Boston accents very accurately. New York accents, Cockney accents. I've seen him do Irish, I think. I think in Peaky Blinders he has an Irish accent. His attention to detail and his commitment is what I really, really like.
Just insane to do different accents. I'm trying to learn the standard American accent.
So am I.
It's already hassle.
Yeah.
You did also, so I know that you do martial arts, right? Is it something that you just were naturally inclined, because you mentioned that you liked sports, or is it something that you started to add to your, let's say, acting experience? Because we all know that those special skill sets, they always help. So let's start from that. So where did it come from?
Yeah, so it had nothing to do with acting. It was just, I decided to go into it. I was in theater school when I started, but it wasn't related to acting. It was more for me. I was just like, I need to know how to defend myself. How do I not know? And I just started doing it. And yeah, so I didn't do it because I know a lot of people do it for like mocap and stuff like that, video games. I never did it for that purpose. I know it's good on the resume for acting for sure, but that wasn't my intention going into it.
So it was just, but did it help you anyhow as you started to get into the acting, or I don't know, booking any roles?
Not so far. It's helped me get auditions. Like sometimes there's a video game audition, they're like, we want someone who has martial arts experience, so I'm gonna audition for it. So it has helped me get opportunities, but I haven't booked them. But yeah.
Okay. Do you think about adding, because so in martial arts, I remember you said it's boxing mostly, right?
Kickboxing
mostly,
mostly.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you think about adding something else specifically? Because I mean, that's something that is in demand somewhat in the industry.
To be honest, no. Because I know some people, like, they love video games and mocap and they want to go that direction. A lot of my friends are like that. I'm not really focused. I prefer film. So yeah, what I want to, like, I guess maybe not necessarily add a martial art, but like focus on, like, because it's different. Knowing martial arts and then on film, how to choreograph it is a bit different. So what I want to adjust and learn more, get better at that, like choreography, yes. But adding a specific martial arts, I don't think so. Maybe wrestling, maybe.
Maybe wrestling.
Yeah.
You did also the monologue competition. That's another interesting thing, because I find when we go to the acting classes, it's mostly the scenes, unless the student by himself decides, oh, like, I'm going to do the monologue. So we don't really, that's what I also realized, that even for myself, I need to bring something to the classes and do the monologue. So what is, just tell a little bit more about this monologue competition, and you also, like, you reached some levels there, right? So tell why, how did the idea come? How did you choose the material?
Yeah, so this is like, for me, it's a new thing. I think I've known it for about a year, but there's two. So there's Monologue Slam, which is Canadian. It's organized in Toronto, and then there's the one you're talking about is World Monologue Games. I mean, it's just something organized online for the world, to actors around the world to just produce things. And a friend told me about it, and I was like, it's just an opportunity to practice. It's free. You don't pay anything. Your question was how did I choose the material?
So why I mean I understand why you got into it, because to your point, that's a practice, and that's, I guess, also a good thing for the audience to learn. And to your point, and how did you choose the material?
So for this one, it's for World Monologue Games, it's tricky because you have to invent it. You're not allowed to use.
Wait a minute, you can't use.
No, you
Oh,
can't.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, unless you have the rights, but I don't know how you get the rights.
Who has?
Exactly, who has the rights? So you can't pick a monologue from a movie and say I'm going to do it. You need to invent it. And I was struggling with that at first. I wasn't even going to do it because I was like, what am I going to write? Stuff like that. And
because you need literally to have the skills of a writer, unless you have someone who can
you
write.
do, but actually, that's the thing. Yes and no, because what I did, I was on paper. I remember I was trying to write, and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna write. And what I did is I just improv'd it. I put my phone and I was doing improvs until it came to, because there's a time limit. It has to be, I think, 2 minutes or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Until it came to 2 minutes. And what I did was, I had something it was something that I think about, a thought that I have, and I was just started expressing it, and I did it a bit of I leaned comedically into it, and it turned into a 2-minute monologue of just a guy telling his friends that they're losers. Not that I think that about my friends, but it's like, it's a thought that I have.
Yeah.
And so it became a monologue, and that's how. So I didn't write it. So you can do it by just improvising.
Huh. But you were, so then the question, sorry, so as you improv, how then you remember, because as you improv and you do this monologue, you need still to remember what you improv before, or you, after when it came together, you sat down and still like wrote it down so that you can remember what you improv.
Yeah, that was tricky. That was tricky, I remember, because then I do it and I'm like, oh, okay, I like what I did, but now I have to replicate it. Mm-hmm. So that was tricky. I don't think that I wrote it. I think I kind of, because when you improv it, it's more ingrained in your memory than if you take an existing text, because you did it and you kind of just remember your body and your voice. Just you remember the pattern, and even if you change a line, they don't know. It's yours, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think I ever actually sat down and wrote it.
Huh. Which one was it? Because I remember I was asking you at one point in time, because I want to. So it's the Canadian, or is the World
Monologue Games.
So that's where you need to create.
Yeah, the Canadian one you can choose. Mm-hmm. I don't know why there's that difference, but World, it has to be your own thing.
And so you got to the finals.
So it starts with, you compete with your country, I think. So just Canada. Then they choose, I think, 5 or 10 people in Canada. No, North America. You compete with US, Canada. Mm-hmm. No, Canada. Canada. Then you go North America, you go Mexico, US, Canada. That's regional finals. Then there's global finals.
Oh, wow.
And they group you, with the whole,
How many countries participate?
And from anywhere.
Oh.
I actually represented Bulgaria this time, actually. So I was in another group. But you can be from anywhere. Anywhere in the world. So there's groups. In the regionals, there's North America, there's Western Europe, Middle East and Eastern Europe. I think there's Africa is split into North Africa.
Okay, so there's a big chunk of different...
Yeah, you can be from anywhere.
How many participants in total?
More than 200 for sure. Mm-hmm. That's for sure, because I remember at the globals, we were, I think, 90? No, regionals, we were 90, globals, we were like 40, something like that. Mm-hmm. But initially, minimum 200, I would say.
So, and then you made it to the global finals, right?
Yeah, I didn't win though. I was in the globals, but then they choose like 3, I think, or 5, and I wasn't in those, but yeah.
But still making through the so many layers of the competition. And what's interesting, I find personally, now that I'm listening to you, is that you said that you added some comedic tone to that, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel that whenever it's the monologue, it should be serious or drama or something. But I think adding I never thought of like.
Well, why do you say that? Why do you say it has to be serious?
I don't know, just like...
It doesn't.
But you're bringing right now just a different point of view, different angle to that. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's because when I, like, a few monologues that I saw in the acting class when the students were doing them, they were always very serious or drama, also somewhat theatrical.
Yeah.
I've never even thought of, to your point, that it should not always be like that. It can be comedic. But then the interesting part that even though it was not a still somewhat typical, it was comedic monologue. It made it up to the finals, world finals. That's
but
cool.
there's a lot of comedic monologues. There's a lot, but I know they're more theatrical in general because I think monologue is it's more common in theater. That's why film classes you do scenes because you have to. There's more the reaction is more valued and important in film. But there's a lot of comedic monologues. But I know what you're saying. That I find it's true that I do find that people tend to kind of lean dramatically. I don't know why. I prefer comedy, so I almost always do comedy. But I know what you're saying, that people tend to kind of go serious. I don't know why. Yeah.
Because I wanted to do the monologue, but now that I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, like I can find, find a comedic monologue as well.
It can really be anything. Maybe you were mad at your husband yesterday for some stupid thing. You can turn it into a monologue for a minute and a half, and you add some funny twist to it, put a camera, and it becomes a monologue.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I realized that I want to ask you one more question, which is leaning back to your experience. So theater versus film, right? And I know that you did more theater up until now, a bit maybe less film, but there's a different approach to performance in theater versus film. Did you find it was easy for you to switch and to adjust? And what also, like, maybe from your perspective, what are those differences when it comes to the theater performance versus the performance in front of the camera?
Yeah, I had to adjust for sure. So the simplest way to explain it is theater, you're performing, you want the person on the last row to not only hear you but understand you. Whereas, so you have to express so that he understands you. Whereas the camera, you're performing for the camera, right? So that's the simplest way to describe it. That's how my teachers would describe it, and it's true. The most simplest example is if I'm angry, on camera, it can just be a look. It can just be like, and I look here, camera catches it. On theater, if I do that, the guy at the 15th row,
the balcony,
he doesn't see anything. So you have to, not that it's exaggerated, but it has to be expressed in just a different way. You have to maybe your body has to be more activated. So that's the difference. I started rambling. I forgot the initial question.
The initial question was, hold on, did it take you long to adapt? How did you adapt from like having a wide theater experience, which is ingrained in your brain and your body, and then when you started doing the film?
Yeah, so it says that. So I was explaining the difference. So it took me a bit of time. I would say maybe a good year to just understand the differences, because I would come in front of the camera and I was just trying to do too much, which is not good in theater either, but it comes from theater because you just, in theater you have to be a bit more activated.
Bigger, louder? Just
louder. You're going to be, I don't know how to say, but you're going to be way more activated physically than in film. And in film sometimes just the look, and if you think the thought, the camera understands it and catches it. And that I wasn't aware of. So I was trying to do a bit too much, and that came from theater, where I'm trying to express something so that the whole audience sees it. So that was tricky for me sometimes. A lot in film they say it and it's cheesy, but it's true. It's like less is more, and you in front of the camera alone tells a lot, just you being there. And then you don't have to push the emotions and push the intentions of the character. The camera does a lot of the work for you almost. I'm still learning that to this day. It's kind of weird, but that's what I'm starting to realize.
How long have you been in the industry, by the way?
I graduated 2020.
Okay.
So 5 years since. It's a weird 5 years because it was COVID and all that stuff. But 5 years,
5 years. You also, so when you were doing the monologue, you had eventually to create your own script, right? Was it like that first step that led you into starting to write a bit?
So no, I was writing a bit I did start at the same time, but they're unrelated. It's just that, or you know what? Maybe it is a bit related. It's because I've always wanted to write, even before that. But the fact that I got to create something of my own, it kind of like showed me how fun it was, and it pushed me to do it. Writing comes from just like I really like acting, obviously, but sometimes I want to. One of my favorite actors is also Adam Sandler. Because I mean he's good, but also because I like the fact that most of the time he doesn't. I don't think he writes it just on his own, but he creates his stuff, and that's what attracts me more. It's like acting is one thing, you know, you give me a role and I do it, but I really like to. My bigger goal is to come up with my own ideas, put them on paper, actually actualize them, and also maybe perform them. Yeah, but I want to put my ideas on paper as well. It makes me more. It excites me more than just performing.
That leads to my next question, which is kind of a wrap-up question as well. So what's next for Boris?
What's next for me?
Yes.
So writing for sure. I want to actually have a. It's so stupid. I have a project that I wrote that I filmed in December that I'm editing at the moment. So I'm starting along doing that. It's super comedy and stupid. So I'm excited to put it out there. And so what's next is writing more and doing more projects. And when I say projects, starting with little things.
Like
the things that
films, you mean?
Even shorter to begin with. What I shot, I think is going to be like 3-4 minutes. A little skit. Inspiration for me is Key and Peele. You know Key and Peele? I forgot their full names. But I mean, they'll know Key and Peele, the people watching. Key and Peele is, they write their own stuff. It's little comedy skits, shorter than short films. And now they're making films after, I think, 10 years of doing it. But they started small, and I want to do that. I want to do small things, write, get to know the motions of filming, editing, stuff like that, putting stuff out there. So that's what's next for me. Yeah. Cool. Doing my own projects.
Well, maybe like in 10 years from now, maybe shorter, earlier, we're going to see a movie that will be produced, done, written by Boris.
That's it.
Thank you very much for coming. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I think like every time I'm speaking to a new person, I'm learning something new for myself. So all the best to you, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you.
We have some actors here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and looking forward to see you at the next episode.